Our speakers for this event is Mr. Lim Sheng Yi and Mr. Jurawat Karan Vidayagaran, sorry. They are both Google developer expert on Firebase. And for this event, these are our sponsors, sorry, our organizers. So this event is organized by all the DSC community in Singapore, which are the Management Development Institute of Singapore, PSB Academy, National University of Singapore, Singapore Management University, Nanyang Polytechnic, Singapore University of Technology and Design, Nanyang Technological University, and finally, Singapore Institute of Technology. Oh, sorry. There's been a mistake. Sorry. Go back. I didn't know. All right. Our speakers for this event, as said earlier, Mr. Lim Sheng Yi, a Google developer expert on Firebase, and Mr. Jurawat Karan Vidayagaran, who's also a Google developers expert. Oh, shoot. All right. Sorry. All right. Our organizers for this event, as said earlier, DSC, Management Development Institute of Singapore, PSB Academy, National University of Singapore, Singapore Management University, Nanyang Polytechnic, Singapore University of Technology and Design, Nanyang Technological University, and Singapore Institute of Technology. All right. So our agenda for this event. From 11 a.m. to 11:16 a.m., we have the introduction to Firebase. From 11:16 a.m. to 11:32 a.m., we have the advantages of using Firebase by Mr. Lim Sheng Yi, our first speaker. Then from 11:32 a.m. to 11:47 a.m., we have the differences between Firestore and real-time database by Mr. Jurawat Karan Vidayagaran, who's our second speaker. Then we have our question and answer session, which happens at 11:47 a.m. to 12:20 p.m., which will be answered by both our speakers. So if you guys have any questions, keep note of them. Then during the session, you guys can ask them. I'll be providing a link for the questions. And finally, to end this off, we have our Kahoot time. All right. So Firebase, its mission is to help the app developers succeed. So what is Firebase? Firebase is a Google's client-side application development platform with the mission to help app developers of all sizes, be it big or small, large or small, sorry, succeed with their products. So how do they do this? Firebase accomplishes this by taking common problems that occur a product's life cycle and making them easier to solve, be it by providing more information about your products or providing tools to handle complex problems like security or network connectivity when storing data. Well, now I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Lim Sheng Yi, who has said earlier, is a Google developer expert on Firebase. Mr. Lim, please.
Hi everyone. Hello. Yeah, I'm Shang Yi. I'm a GDE in Firebase as well. also a software developer. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just switch to my screen. Yeah, I guess everyone should be able to see my screen, right? Yeah. So that's enough about me. So let's get started. So you as a developer would like to build something, right? So take for example this app. This is simple to-do list app, right? Which has the abilities for you to add new tasks and mark them as done, etc. So before I continue on this presentation, I would like to ask you guys a question, and maybe you can entertain me with this. But hold on, let me just restart the poll. I'd like to ask you guys a few questions first before we get started into learning more about what Firebase actually does. So just go to this place. Maybe I can just paste the link as well. Yeah. So just want to ask a few questions about you when you want to build apps. What are the difficulties you face, especially when start building apps? So maybe if you can just go to the link I provided in the chat. And you can just poll and watch. So we see a lot of people here with no knowledge in building backends. We see also large number of you have difficulties bringing app online, which is interesting to see. And scaling app is also a favorite here, as is a problem that a lot of you face, and trying to get apps to work across high traffic loads when, you know, like for example, you have a shopping app and there's a lot of people running using it at the same time, or you have a flash sale, and how do you actually manage these sorts of loads? So I guess that's pretty much it. So I'm just gonna pause this itself. So with all these problems, the reason I ask you for these problems is because we can go through some steps that what Firebase can do to help you actually solve these problems. All of these problems here, all of these challenges I've listed here, can be actually be solved with Firebase. So let's get right back to it. So again, let's go back to our example app. This is a very simple app, a to-do list app, where you are able to add new tasks, able to check tasks as done, remove tasks, and you want this to work across multiple users, right? So let's go through some of the few things that developers might know, right? So earlier on in this kind of example, it looks really easy, right? All these simple things you should be able to do. And most developers would think that it is actually a very easy app to build, right? And you would actually start coding everything away, writing your UIs, all your logic and stuff. But then you actually hit a big roadblock. How do you actually get your app to work, especially across multiple users? So here's are some of the few challenges that you will face when building an app. So the first one is, of course, your user interface. As developers, we will need to know what sort of user interfaces to use, how to build them, what sort of frameworks if you want to use them. You're going to do it on a mobile device, you want to run it on the web, and all of this kind of information. And the next thing after you finish building your app is that how do we want to actually host our app online, right? So one of the poll questions was the challenge of getting your app ready online for other users to use. So hosting here plays an important part when you actually build an app. So the next one that you will need to face is database design, right? Or in short for DB. So how do you make sure your database is able to work across different users, scale across multiple connections, and work all the time? So this is one of the few challenges that you'll face. And of course, if you're building a client-side apps, you will need to have an API layer so that your UI can communicate with your backend architecture and able to send and receive data accordingly. So finally, you have your big backbone that serves your app entirely, which is your server to host your database, host your backend application server, your backend logic, and handle traffic. And all of these are common problems that you will need to face in order to build something as simple as a to-do list, because what you really need is all the infrastructure at the back that is supporting your app as it grows. So this is where Firebase can actually help you, right? So after you've considered all of these problems, you will realize that it actually is complicated just to build a simple app, right? So apps that you want multiple users to use online, anywhere, anytime can be complicated. So we have seen all the work you can do that you will need to do in order to build these apps. So I'm sure all of the challenges that I've mentioned earlier on would come into this picture, and you have of course voted on them, right? So it will be really troublesome to actually handle this as a developer, especially if you're working alone or working with a few people. You will now need to have some people managing the back-end infrastructure, some people managing the front end, and all of those, everything in between. So again, like what was introduced already, Firebase help mobile and web app developers succeed. And here's some features that Firebase has to help you out with this. So Firebase consists of three major portions to help developers of all sizes to succeed. One of them is people who need help building applications. For example, these are some features, for example, authentication, hosting, etc. Sometimes Firebase also has products to help you improve your app quality. For example, you have already built your app, now you want to track app crashes on your Android and iOS phone. You want to monitor performance of your app. If you want to monitor some testing as well, you can use the quality section of the Firebase suite. And if you're done with these two, you can of course take a look and explore how you can grow your user base into more A/B testing, etc. But today we're just going to focus some of the build a better apps portion of the Firebase suite to help you out getting started, right? So Firebase itself supports a lot of different development platforms. One of the most used platform would be iOS, Android, and web. If you're into embedded devices development or you use C++, you can do that as well. If you're into game development as well, you can actually use Firebase to actually embed Firebase into your games as well. So let's get started on to some of the few advantages in building using Firebase. So I'm just going to go through some of these suites, these tools that will help you out, these technologies that will help you out. Very briefly touch on them so that you kind of get to know them a little bit better. And we will go through each of these tools by going through some challenges that you face and some problems you have faced earlier on. So in the poll, I've asked some of those questions, and the first question was adding login functionality, or how do you build an app that has a login page in between the user and the content that you want to serve to only authenticated users. So traditionally, you would actually have to build your database, you have to set up how credentials will flow. If it's a username password system, how do you actually encrypt and secure it one way and prevent data breaches? And all of this consideration goes into place when thinking about login functionality, right? We try to make our application as secure as possible. So one of the few things that Firebase has is the Firebase authentication. If you need to be able to support username, password authentication, or even if you want to do a phone number authentication via TAC, you can actually just use Firebase authentication in your app itself. So Firebase authentication support multiple identities. So if you want to be able to support sign in with Google, sign in with Facebook, sign in with GitHub, etc., you can just use Firebase authentication to help you out with this. So in the event that you already have an app with a custom authentication built in, you can still use Firebase authentication to handle custom authentication for various Firebase products. So the Firebase authentication is built on top of Google's identity provider, so it's very secure. So all you need to do is just embed a small piece of code into your app that basically validates the user and creates a cookie on the web app itself or on your mobile application. And that credential is used to pass sensitive information back and forth. Of course, this alone does not guarantee security, of course. You would, of course, need to add some sort of authentication in security rules for different products that you use. But this is a good way to get started in handling authentication. So the next challenge that you will have is that you want to be able to send and receive data on demand anytime. So going back to the to-do list, right? You want to be able to add to the to-do list on one phone and see it on another phone. Or maybe you might even have a group study app where each of you can upload your own notes and comment on them anytime, anywhere. And any sort of app that requires some sort of centralized database somewhere in order for everyone to access and receive data can be a challenge for developers to create, because what you will need to do is to choose a database that you like. For example, maybe you can go for a MySQL database or a Postgres database or any other database you like. And then now you will need to write insert, update, delete statements in your backend application logic. And then now you will need to take the entire thing and throw it on a server and host it online. So it takes really a lot of steps just to get database done correctly. But with Firebase, Firebase actually provides you two types of databases, which will be taught in depth by Jirawat later on. One of them is the real-time database. Is that data is stored in a JSON structure, JavaScript notation object structure. And of course, one of the few key advantages is that it supports real-time updates as well. And in the event you don't have internet connection for some reason, you're still able to Instagram, you can see the person is active or last seen when. You can actually build add this kind of functionality to your app to know when your users are online, when was the last seen of the user. You can use that. It is useful to create chatting applications as well. So these are some of the features that you can use real-time database for. And let's go to a quick demonstration of how this works. So I'm just going to copy this link. I'm just going to paste it here. Yeah, I can share the slides later on. The organizer will probably get in contact with you to share the slides. But yeah, so this is the web page. So the Firebase Water demo runs on the real-time database as well, just to showcase what happens when you send and receive data on Firestore. So let's just add my name. And then here you can actually choose a nation. For me, I'm going to choose the Fire Nation. You can choose Water Nation if you want. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to enable this game. And what basically essentially does is a tug and war. So you can choose one side, either you are a fire person or a water person, and your objective is to extinguish each other. So let me just go to the Firebase console where you manage your project. And let me just turn on the game so you guys can play. So the link is in the chat, so please take a look. Let me just enable this real quick. So this is the real-time database console on Firebase itself. And this is a JSON structure. So let me just quickly start the game. So the game has started. So your objective is to deploy as much water or fire as possible to extinguish each other. So let's see who has the fastest fingers to spam as much as possible. I guess water is winning the race at the moment. Go on. Let's take 10 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and hold on. Let me just turn it off again. Okay, continue spamming while my computer freezes. So I guess you guys are still spamming good. Okay, let me just quickly turn it off. So what happens here is that when you're clicking the button, real-time functionality is occurring, and you're getting data updated in real time. So if you want to build apps that do chatting or any sort of real-time features that you would need, you can actually use the real-time database to help you out here. Hold on, my app seems to be having an issue. Hello, can you guys still hear me? I probably think my internet connection is a bit wonky.
Yeah, we can hear you, but I think your video cam is kind of slow.
Hold on a moment. Yeah, okay, I'm back. So let's see. We can see our top contributors here for the spamming war. So we have Jess at 125, seems to be the top contributor of the spamming. So basically, you can build apps like this on Firebase as well. So let me just go through real quick. So if you need to build a chatting application, you can do the same. So let's take a look at what other Firebase database products they have as well. So one more database offering that Firebase has is the Cloud Firestore, right? So Cloud Firestore itself allow you to send and receive data in real time as well. But this time it is not a JSON structure, but a NoSQL collection. So if you want to be able to query more data efficiently, you can use Firestore as another way to store data across the cloud. So the third challenge here is the ability to store and view resources. For example, you want to create an app that allows you to upload pictures, right? So you actually can use one of the few Firebase features that it have. Otherwise, you would now need to think of a way to find a storage solution on your server, probably a folder where you will need to upload data to those folders and do linking to that path in your backend application. So if you need to be able to do this, you can always use uh, cloud storage. So cloud storage allows you to save and retrieve data, uh, and it scales automatically across all Google infrastructure. So cloud storage actually runs on the Google Cloud platform. So you can be sure that it actually scales really great across a lot of different users. So all of the files are also stored in edge caches, meaning that they are located nearer to you as a cache, so that next time when you retrieve them, you're retrieving from the cache rather than the actual location itself. So you don't have to handle any servers, you don't need to deploy anything. All you need to do is just a few click of a button and some code, and your app can now save and retrieve data from cloud storage itself. So if you want to create an app that allows you to share files or pictures across multiple users, you can easily do that. It's rather easy. And of course, supports or upload, and then while your internet goes back to normal, it will resume the uploading. So if you want to handle those kind of problematic uploads, resume uploads, you can always use Cloud Firestore with their SDKs to help you do it. So I don't think we have a lot of time, but if you want, you can actually take a look at the chat demo, which I will paste here as well. So you can take a look at this demo. You can, of course, click to upload images as well. So this will save images in Cloud Firestore for you. So next challenge which is a lot of you have chosen on the poll is how do you actually write business logic and all those backend server code that you need to host somewhere and then it will execute on demand, right? So this can be a problem with a lot of apps because, for example, if you're building a online shopping app or an auction app, you can't be saving those prices on your local machine, right? And then when you're making a purchase, you can't really just put it on your web page or your app, which can be prone to hacking or manipulation on the client side. So most of the time, all of this calculation, this secure code should not be exposed to users, but located in a centralized server, right? Or different servers where those logic can be executed as intended by the developer itself. So how do you actually do that? So traditionally, what you will need to do is to figure out what sort of what sort of back-end application framework you want to use. Maybe if you're into Node.js, you would need to write a Node app on the back end. If you're into Java, maybe you would write a J2EE app or maybe a Spring Boot app. So all of these kind of back end application frameworks, now you will need to build all of those infrastructure and deploy them just to write some business logic. So how does Firebase help support you as a developer who doesn't want to do anything to do with back end? You can use cloud functions. So what is a cloud function? Basically, it allows you to write some secure JavaScript code, and you can deploy that code on Firebase as well. So in the event, let's say you want to do some sort of calculation, you can always call that API through cloud functions to do it for you. Or you can actually add triggers to it as well. So for example, if you add data to the real-time database of Firestore, for example, I add a new purchase order, the cloud functions can immediately be triggered to run calculation functions, commission calculations, and save it to the database itself securely without any access from the end user. So these are some of the few supported ones. You can access authentication as well, Firestore, analytics, publisher subscriber model directly on cloud functions, and many more. So let's take a look at some examples. For example, you have a new sign-in form that you created and you want to be able to send a welcome email to users. Like, hey, thank you for signing up. Here's some new information to help you get started. You can create a cloud function to help you do it by listening to a new user created on Firebase authentication. Then you can write JavaScript code to send emails on Firebase itself. So all of those code is not on the client side. It's not on the app. It's not on the web page. It's all on a secure environment on Firebase. So if you want to be able to process data in the background, for example, I want to transform values at the back, maybe in a certain interval, you can, of course, use Firestore. You can use Cloud Functions as well. So if you are a web developer who like building web pages, how do you actually upload these web pages online and let everyone use it? At the same time, make it sure that it won't crash at high loads, at high traffics. And of course, the most important thing is that you want to make sure your app is secure. So you can actually use Firebase hosting, which allows you to upload your static web apps directly. And it has automatic SSL support. So it's always HTTPS by default, and it runs on a global CDN network. So after you've created that, you can actually attach a custom domain if you like. So for example, one of the few apps like our friendly chat, it runs on the default. This is running on Firebase hosting. You can, of course, customize this domain accordingly, provided you have bought a custom domain as well. So these are some of the examples that you can use Firebase for. Here are some resources for you to get started learning Firebase. So if you want to be able to start learning Firebase, you can easily go to the documents. If you want to see how some cloud functions are available for you to use and how they work, you can take a look at that. If you want to learn how to build this friendly chat demo, you can always go to this step-by-step instruction on the Code Labs. So you can get all of this information. I will share these slides later on. So you can get all of this stuff if you want to. If you want to see the code behind the Firewater demo, it's running on React. So you can just click on this link to get the actual source code itself. So I guess that's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lim. Yes, sir. All right. Thank you, Mr. Lin, for coming. For telling us all about the tools available and the advantages of Firebase. I hope everyone has learned something from Mr. Lim's presentation. Thank you. And next, we have Mr. Jerawat to tell us about the differences between Firestore and real-time database. Mr. Jerawat, please.
Good morning, everyone. Let me share my slide first. Can you see my slide well?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So my name is Jirwat Karanwithiyakan. I know my full name is quite long, but you can remember me as Jirawati. This is my nickname. And I'm Google Developer Expert for Firebase. I'm so excited to be here to talk about the differences between real-time database and cloud Firestore, because this is my first overseas tour this year. Before we get started, let me introduce Firebase real-time database and cloud Firestore. I will tell you the history of them. So in 2017, Google announced Firebase in Google I/O 2016, and real-time database is on the state that time. After 2 years, after Google announced Firebase, They mix the real-time database and cloud data store. The real-time database and cloud data store marry together to become the cloud file store, the next generations of the database in Firebase. So before we talk about the differences between them, I would like to let you know what does they have in common. Both of them, real-time database and cloud file store, are NoSQL database. One thing that I would like you guys to remember is icon from both of them. The left-hand side, can you please remember the icon, and the right-hand side is cloud file store. The gray circle are different. From both of them are different. The reason why I would like you to remember, because my slide after this will use this logo, and sometimes I will not mention the database name. So both of them are NoSQL database that designed for scalability, scaling for them, and fast querying. That the Lim Chang-yi show you how fast that Firebase database can do. And next is, right now, Firebase real-time database and cloud file store support many kinds of platforms around development world. For example, for mobile, you see iOS and Android. Firebase provide client SDK for mobile. Moreover, Flutter and React Native, the cloud platform development are also support in Firebase also. And in the middle, Firebase also support web development, both client side and server side. They provide JavaScript SDK for web developers, for front-end developers, and provide Firebase admin in many kinds of languages like Python, Go, Node.js, Java, that you can access to the Firebase feature via the server side. And two more in the right-hand side, C++ and Unity. Firebase also support game developer, especially 6 hours ago. Firebase just released the cloud file store to support C++ and Unity in beta already. Maybe Firebase team know that I will talk about cloud file store today. And then the next feature is the highlight feature that you may know, and a lot of people know Firebase from this feature. And this picture is about synchronization. The real-time database and cloud file store are able to sync the data to the client devices automatically. Let you focus on the yellow line and the blue line. This means when the people, when some devices write the data, the yellow one, to the Firebase server, all of devices that subscribe the Firebase server will get the notification or get the data automatically. You don't need to write the program like Ajax, asynchronous JavaScript and XML in the last time. It's a previous technology that people hit. So right now it's different. It's like a pub/sub technology. All of devices can subscribe your database, and if something changes in your Firebase server, they will publish the new data to your application automatically. So let you think about, if we use the old technology like Ajax, asynchronous JavaScript and XML to create the chat app, you have to pull the data, you have to request the server every 3 minutes to ask for the new data. It's not good concept to create the chat app, because the device will consume a lot of battery, and your server side also will do the heavy task to handle a lot of requests that people ask for. It's a in cloud file store. Next, I'm gonna talk to the offline support feature that they have in common. They have together in common. So the offline support let you see the picture. When you go to somewhere that you lost the connection is poor, you can use their application or use your web to write the data, delete the data, or update, even querying the data inside local storage. So normally, if you are an app developer like Android and iOS, if you not familiar or don't have an experience to handle the offline support, your application will crash, right? But this one, you just enable one line of code to get the offline support feature. Your application will work when the connection is offline. Your connection get back. The data that you store in the local will sync to the Firebase server automatically, sorting by your timestamp. Sorting by the timestamp data right to the local database. This is cool, right? This one don't need to program anything. Firebase already support for you, especially in Cloud Firestore. You don't need any line of code to write for the offline support. But in Firebase real-time database, you need one line of code to enable offline support. This is so cool. So this is the main thing that we're gonna talk today. What are the differences between them? First, the data model. The data model in the left-hand side. Can you remember this icon? The left-hand side icon is real-time database. The data model of real-time database is JSON tree. So you can store the data by key and value, like a tree level. You can have many levels of the data inside JSON object. So this one helps you easy to query the data. And the second one in the right-hand side, Cloud Firestore will store the data as the document-oriented model. If you're familiar with the MongoDB before, it is something like that. It is a collection. You can create a collection to store many documents inside, and each document will store many key and value inside again. Yeah. So document-oriented is more powerful in querying. That I will talk later. I will talk next. Sorry. In the querying, the Firebase real-time database, as I told you before, is a key value pair that you can specify key to get value. This is a JSON object as a string. And the right-hand side, you can do advanced querying. For example, if you would like to do multiple sorting or multiple where in one query, you can use Cloud Firestore. But in the real-time database, if you would like to do the multiple where or multiple sorting, you cannot do that. This is a simple query. But let you think about if you would like to choose a database and if you would like to design for complexity querying, please focus on Cloud Firestore. And next, offline support that I told you before is support in Cloud Firestore and real-time database. But in real-time database, only support in mobile application, Android, iOS, Flutter, and React Native. In Cloud Firestore, they support in iOS, Android, and web also. I found some trick and tip in some blog posts. Found that developer can enable offline support in real-time database, but you need a trick and tips to make it happen. Let me talk to you about the reliability. Firebase real-time database only support regional solution. Right now, there are a US central one in US and Belgium. So when you create a database, you have to choose the location that you would like to store the data. Like you have to use US or Belgium, one of them. You cannot use both of them in the same time. And right now, the regional solution happen in Southeast Asia or Asia. So let's move to the next one, Cloud Firestore. It is a regional and multiple region solution support. So there are the data center around the world. They provide a regional, or if you would like to make it available in your multi-region for the low latency, you can use multi-region also. You can use many local data center in many countries, in many regions to support your program. Let me talk to scalability. In the left-hand side, real-time database requires sharding if you would like to scale your database. Right now, real-time database support 200K concurrent per database. The reason why I say per database is one ability that Firebase real-time database can do right now is you can have many, multiple databases in your projects. Such as you have many kinds of projects that you have to serve each customer, right? You can create many databases inside the real-time database. One database supports 2K concurrent connection. In the right-hand side, it's automatically scaled. Cloud Firestore provides automatically scale for you. So one database can support 1 million concurrent connection. And Firebase team plan to expand this concurrent connection in the future also. Let's talk about the pricing plans. Both of them provide free plan for you. After you attend this session, this talk, you can go back home and try it for free. And if you would like to use more or go production, you can select pay-as-you-go plan, Brave plan. Let me focus the differences between them. Writing, reading, deleting database. For writing and deleting is I think writing is quite high, but reading is very cheap for you, right? $0.06 per 100K is quite cheap, but writing is you have to decision. And the real-time database is different. They focus on the data you store, data site you store in the database, and the bandwidth that you use from the database. So you see, if you have a lot of data and you don't need to write or change it often, you can use Cloud Firestore. But if you would like to update the data frequency, always update, and not much data inside the database, you can choose the real-time database. More key consideration before you choose the database from the Firebase database. In the left-hand side, let's start with the left-hand side. Primarily synchronizing data with the basic query. For the basic query, and the second one, few GB, few data size in the storage that change frequency. Or if you would like to have many database, for example, you would like to serve each major customer. Let you think about which database should you use. Let's go to the right-hand side. In case you would like to do the advanced queuing or sorting or support many transactions, what database you would like to select or choose. And if you have the gigabyte of size of the data to terabyte, that is rich much often than it changes, which one you would like to use. And extremely high uptime, guaranteed 99.999%. Let me answer you. The left-hand side, you should go through Firebase real-time database, and the right-hand side, the manufacturer in the right-hand side, you can go through Cloud Firestore. Hope you guys get an idea how to choose the database that fit for you. Before I'm finishing my talk, I would like to know which Firebase that fit for you, I will send you survey in the chat box, and please answer me what database that you would like to use. A moment. Okay. Let's vote what database. Awesome. Awesome. Wow. People will use both of them. The one feature that I haven't mentioned in the differences between them is the present. So in the real-time database, the good feature from the real-time database for present is you will get to know when people offline or online. But in the Cloud Firestore, it doesn't support natively. You can use Cloud Function that Lim Chan Yi mentioned before to enable the presence feature that you will let you know the people offline or online in the Cloud Firestore. That's cool. 25% participated in this survey. So the number one that, is quite equal. Okay, the number one people consider to use both of them, and second one, real-time database. It surprised me. Maybe I'm good to be a presenter of the real-time database. Okay, cool. So I think all of them quite equal. Thank you so much for participating. And if you would like to get my slide, is available now in com/Firebase Thailand. You can download my slide in a high def from there. That's all for me. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Jarabat. One second. All right, thank you, Mr. Jarabat, on the inside details about differences between the Firestore and real database, real-time database. All right, I hope everyone has learned something from it, and now we have our Q&A session, question and answer session. I will be giving a link right now. If you would just give me a moment. Oops. Try right over here. Sorry. It's in the chat right now. You guys can see. You guys can ask your questions, and if you want, you guys can put who would you like to ask this question to? So many of you has asked your questions in the chat. But I'll be just giving like around 1 more minute for everyone to ask your questions. Maybe then we'll start answering the questions in a minute. Yeah.
So a question I got from the slide Q&A. Can I know how do I get the configuration key for my projects? Let me share my slide. Can I share my screen right now?
Sure. 1 second. Please,
Okay.
Okay.
Can you see my Firebase console?
Sure, yes.
Okay. You can go through your project you created in Firebase console, console.firebase.google.com, and then go to project setting in the left-hand side. Let me expand my left-hand menu. Go to the gear icon here, project setting, and then you will see the service account from here. Go through the service account from here. For the Firebase admin SDK project configuration are here. You can generate new private key and you can get some example code for Node.js, Java, Python, and Go, and use it in the server side.
All right. Then the other question.
For the real life projects for Cloud Firestore, let me think about it. Lim Changi, do you have idea about the real life project for the Cloud Firestore?
I'm actually also thinking about it as well, but who uses? I remember there was a company that uses it to build political campaign donor page. I think it went viral one time. But there are also quite a few companies that use it as well. I'm not sure whether they use specifically Firestore, but other features. But Twitch and Atlassian also uses Firebase itself.
One project in the real life in Thailand that I know, but people may not know about the name, is a True ID application. True ID application is like a portal website, portal application that collect many kinds of content, like a video, travel, beauty, horoscope, many things inside this app. This app is named, the name of this app is True ID app. And one section that I know they use the Cloud Firestore is the TV series. The comment below the TV series, they're provided by Cloud Firestore. People can talk to each other in the comment below the series. And there are more than 10 million downloads for this app in Thailand.
All right.
And next, what's the difference between MongoDB and real-time database? The MongoDB is the document-oriented data model, but in real-time database is JSON tree, JSON object. And as I know, MongoDB doesn't support real-time natively. You have to build more code to make it real-time.
For the next question, for social media app, which type of database is preferred? So it really depends on your usage. You basically can even use both at the same time. There's nothing wrong with that. So you could even use persistence. You can use real-time database to handle present support. So if you want to see if your friends are online or offline, you can use that. If you need to use data, if you need to load and query data that can do sorting, filtering in a more detailed way, you can of course put it on Firestore. So you basically can just use both databases at the same time as well.
Yeah. And important thing, before I choose the data, real-time database or cloud file store in my project in the production is the pricing. If last year I created the application that used for one day, the campaign application, and I know 1,000 of people will change the data in the same time. And yeah, let you imagine a lot of the connection, concurrent connection operation will make with my database. So I think about the pricing also. So in that time, I use real-time database because it's no charge on operation.
Why are Firebase services more popular among mobile app development? So I can't speak for all mobile developers, but one thing that mobile developers want to do is they just want to build mobile apps, which basically is what they're trying to do, right? So a mobile app, if they're just going to build a standalone mobile app, for example, like just a calculator or something that does not require any sort of server-sided logic, it works. But most mobile apps require some sort of backend infrastructure to help support it, right? So one of the few things they don't want to handle is all that backend mess, all that logic, all that scaling problems. They just want to focus on building features for mobile apps. So that's why it is much more preferred to use. Fun fact: almost all mobile apps that receive push notifications run on the Firebase messaging itself. So if you receive a notification, it is most likely powered by Firebase cloud messaging feature.
Currently, I need to build a project for a uni event where it is like an amazing race setup. Some features require real-time GPS clue sending and authentication using pre-made accounts. I want to ask what services should I use? Also, are there free trials for 5 days?
Yeah, go ahead.
For me, I recommend Cloud Firestore for this because one data type that you can store and querying from the database is about the latitude and longitude. I mean the location service GPS. So you can store the GPS lat and long inside Cloud Firestore, and you can querying is in easier way to specify the area that you want from the Cloud Firestore. And yes, they provide you a free trial.
Yes, and if you're gonna build a product for uni, you can actually go beyond the free trial and use the Blaze plan, but they don't actually charge you for anything unless you go over the quota. So far, most of the projects that I have built, where there are a few thousand users, it rarely charges a lot. So when I say a lot, I haven't received a bill for more than 10 USD before. So I am doubtful that you will actually hit that limit, but feel free to use the free plan for any time you want. There's no credit card needed. There's no expiration time. There's no trial period. You can get to just use it for the entire year or a few. It doesn't expire. So if you feel that there are some things that the free tier cannot do compared to the Blaze plan, one thing is that the cloud functions is limited to call. It's not allowed to call third-party APIs. So if you have a cloud function that needs to call some sort of third-party API service, it will most not likely work. For example, if you want to send an email. So I guess this feature won't be enabled. But you can always turn on a Blaze plan, but they don't actually charge you until you cross the limit. So the limit actually renews according to the quota that the pricing plan that Jirawat has shared. So there are some limits that renew every day. So you can do 20K writes or read per day without getting charged. So as long as you don't go over that limit per day, you actually don't get charged at all. So yeah, I would suggest you to go ahead with the free plan until it is no longer it doesn't make sense anymore to you. Then you can go ahead with trying out the Blaze plan as well.
Thanks, Changi. I'm just figured out one more thing. If you would like to use a cloud function in your project, right now, if you would like to request the third-party API, you have to use the Place plan, pay as you go, and you have to buy your credit card before using it. But no worry, to develop your application in local, like Cloud Firestore available there, real-time database or Cloud Function available there also. So don't need to deploy. You can develop your app very in the short time, very fast.
Okay. Next question. How is the performance optimized when using live database?
Performance optimized.
I guess it really depends what you mean by optimized. So one thing about Firebase databases, Cloud Firestore or real-time database is that they perform extremely fast.
Yeah.
So what does that actually mean for us? It actually means that if I do a simulated read, let's say out of 10,000 documents, I only need to read one. The time performance of that particular operation is the same as one read per 100,000.
Yeah.
Yes, there's no difference in that because reason is the nature of the database itself. There's a NoSQL database, and it runs a very different way compared to MySQL database where it needs to scan through all the n number of rows to determine which row to retrieve. But this relies entirely on a very huge index, so it knows what to retrieve. So in that sense, searching and writing performance is fast. It can be too fast until you might not know something is wrong. For example, your app now performs really fast. Everything you get very fast, but you are faced with a more than large bill. Reason is because sometimes you might do things in a way that might waste database reads and writes. But since they perform really fast, you don't actually know what is the problem because it just behaves normally, right? If you were to compare with a MySQL database, for example, if you try to read or write data and you notice that why is it taking so long just to do an insert or update or delete statement, right? Then you know the problem is with the database or how you actually write your queries. But with Firestore itself, it runs really fast, so you don't really know why it happened. So it is prudent to only fetch what you need on the database. So in a page where you just display 10 records out of 100, you should only just fetch 10. There's some other tips and tricks as well. If you want to count how many records in the database, we don't recommend you to do that by counting. Rather, you would need to save probably a counter value in the database that updates every time. So these are some of the few optimization or redundancies that you would need to add to these databases to not increase I wouldn't say is to increase the performance of the database, but to increase the performance of your budget. Yeah, so one of the few cases, you can actually search a few case studies online where sometimes they use Firestore and it costs them quite a lot. Mainly it's because the way they use it is incorrect. So they don't actually notice the problem. Everything works. It's just that when the bill comes, you can actually see the problem. Store console, you can actually see how many reads and writes are being performed in real time. So you can take steps to either prevent or manage your database in sense. Yeah.
We have what's the differences between Firebase admin and PM and Firebase and PM?
For Firebase and PM, as I know, is a previously dependency that Firebase released for the server side. So the server side, right? But right now, I don't use the Firebase and PM anymore. I only use the Firebase admin. So Firebase admin is the dependency that allows you to access to many kind of Firebase feature, right? Firebase storage, real-time database, or Cloud Firestore, even Firebase authentication also. Yeah.
Just to add on to what Gerald has mentioned, if you are a web developer who just wants to show data or do operations on application. So if you want to be able to connect to all the Firebase services, you use that. So that connection itself is public connection. So you are not actually exposing anything secret. But if you want to use the Firebase admin npm, one thing it requires you is to provide a service account credential. So basically it gives the SDK full access to do whatever it wants to do in your Firebase account. So generally you wouldn't use Firebase admin in a web page, but you would use it when you run on Cloud Functions, or you have your own backend infrastructure already, and you probably just want to retrieve data directly from there. You can use Firebase admin npm. So in short, Firebase admin is only for secure environment where no users can access, and it performs data on behalf of the admin user. If you're using it, if you want to retrieve data on behalf of a client user, for example, on a mobile app, on a web page, or client-facing applications, then you would use Firebase npm itself.
Good answer. And pretty much the Firebase security, everything you do is like an admin do.
Yes, one thing we haven't actually covered here is Firebase security rules. So security rules are important to ensure people with the correct credentials can read and write your database. So just because you're already logged into the app doesn't mean you should get access to every single data in the Firebase or real-time database, right? For example, maybe admin users get access to particular few functions to insert, update, delete, for example. Regular users only get access to read particular documents. So all of this information you can read directly from the documentation. There's a section on security rules, what you can allow and deny users to access a particular location, particular document, a particular node in both real-time database and Firestore.
Right.
Let's take a look at what it actually means. Risk condition is where two people or two entities are trying to save the same data at the same time. So let's say, for example, let's take a very simple example of a post on Facebook, right? Or Instagram, whatever lah. There's a like button, right? You press the like button. Let's say the like is at 100. Two people press the like button at the same time. So what is the value it should be? It should be 102, right? Correct? So most of the time when people do that, developers do that, is that they just take the existing number and increase by 1. So this will cause a risk condition, right? Regardless of any sort of application you have, as long as you press the button at the same time and you get the same value and you try to increase the same value again, there's a condition where both of them will override each other. So in this sense, there's a few ways to circumvent this problem. One of the few things is to attach it with a transaction. What transaction does is that it will wait for data to be completely written before new data is added on top. So you can take a look at the Firebase documentation on how the mechanism actually works. But if you're doing counters or numbers like likes and stuff, we recommend you use increment. There's a function called increment value, I think, to help you increase counters atomically, which means that regardless of how many people press the same button at once, you are basically telling Firestore that please only update the data when a new data is based on the data in the database. So if 100 people update at the same time, you will always increase accordingly. So this is how you will handle risk conditions for counter values, increment or decrement values. But if you have two people competing to write on the same file, for example, how do you make sure that the data is not overwritten? Then you have to do it a few ways. One is to, of course, include real-time functionality to detect whether there are changes made to the existing file. Or if you want to overwrite it, you have to make sure you wrap it in a transaction.
So sorry.
And how to set the increment value in Firebase is very easy. Just one line of code.
Yep.
Increment or decrement, just one line of code. It's very easy.
Yep.
We have a question regarding the Firebase admin and Firebase npm actually. So if I have backend services like Node.js, it would be better to
one, because the client-sided one does not have full privileges to write directly to the database itself, since now it's governed by the Firestore, the file security rules. So if in the event that somehow you're using the Firebase npm and you're able to do whatever you want, basically something is wrong with your security rules. They are there to protect your data from unauthorized writes, reads.
Okay. So how do we define each read or write regarding the prices of the services per instruction base?
So maybe for reads, what happens is that every single time you read a document, you are charged with one read. So you get how many are Gerard? 50K reads per day, right? Was it?
For the price plan, right?
Yeah, for reading.
Firestore,
Yeah,
50K per day.
yeah, 50K per day. So if you're reading data 50,000 times in a day, you get charged $0. So per read means every single time you receive a document. So let's say if you're doing an app to count the number of documents, right? Then you actually, if you're showing in your app, or there are 100 records created, and you do this by getting all of the data and counting the length of the array, then you're actually incurring 100 reads. So it is not a correct solution to get the number of reads, not to get a correct solution to get number of documents in Firestore. So that is what you consider a read. Or a single write is how many documents you write based on your query. If you write a single write, then you're charged with one write. So it's pretty much that simple.
If you concerned about the read and write the times in your database, maybe you can consider to Firebase real-time database because it's no operation cost.
Yes, I actually have a different talk to cover usage cost for Firebase. How do you reduce it? But what Gerard mentioned is what we do as well. So what happens is, let's say you have a website that always loads static information that changes very rarely. For example, let's say announcements. You have a list of announcements you want to show on your web page, or things that don't change every day. You can actually store those data in real-time database instead, because you are not doing any document reads directly. You are just fetching the JSON from real-time database. So those kind of documents, I would suggest you putting on real-time database. For things that do frequently change, that you really need to query, then I would recommend you put Firestore. And of course, there are many different ways. This example, how if you have a collection of 100 documents, it will be impossible to show 100 documents on the page, right? The person won't likely be reading 100 documents on a single page. So you can actually add pagination to only just fetch 5. So even if the person reloads the page, you only show 5, right? Other than 100 every time. Only when they need to go to the next page, you load the next 5, and so on and so forth. So there are other few strategies as well. For example, caching, to help you cache the data locally, so that you don't actually keep fetching the same data over and over again on Firestore and charging more reads and writes. So these are some ways that you can try to do it. But as for starters, I would suggest you trying out Firestore directly. Don't be put off with the read and write cost first. Take a look at how you build your app. Maybe observe and see, for example, if you want to do a user journey. For example, the user is adding a product to the cart. You test this flow out on your app and see how many document reads and writes is costing, and you can roughly estimate how much it will cost you if you run it on a large production scale. So you can use these kind of techniques to help you manage the cost, and you won't be surprised with it. And also, since Firebase runs on the Google Cloud platform, there are ways you can actually add budget alerts. So budget alerts basically send you an email to inform you, hey, you're almost approaching your usage budget of maybe $10. So you can, based on that information, take a look and see what is happening in this area.
Is it a mandatory thing that if you would like to use them cloud Firestore or many feature in GCP, budget alert is very powerful to inform you.
Okay, we have a question regarding the solution challenge actually. Can you share some best practices on how we can use it for our solution product?
For this question, I would say depends on what you want to achieve in your solution challenge, basically. So the database, all Firebase products are flexible in most of the use cases that you want to do. So there's no particular use case. They only fits one particular use case. You can actually do a lot of different things on Firebase. So just, I think, hit us a message if you have any very specific business use cases that you need to help solve with Firebase. Just let us know. We can try to help you out on that. But bottom line is basically very flexible in what you need it to do.
Yeah, agree. Depend on the specific the project you're gonna build. So they provide many of Firebase services. I think a bunch of them are around 20 services right now. You can choose them to build the app. But I would like to tell you, you are the Firebase is the right thing that you if you would like to build something happen in the limited of time, because in Thailand, in many hackathon stage, most of the hacker use Firebase to make it happen overnight.
Yes, it's perfect for hobby projects and hackathon projects. I personally think it's also great for final year projects as well. I don't think everyone knows about intervention or any refreshers, then probably that will make him feel, or make him or her feel, yeah, your project is way cooler than the others. But Firebase is very powerful for companies to use it as proof of concept or barrier to entry into the market. So imagine you're a company that you have an idea for this particular app that you think is really cool, and it probably is very good, but it will cost you, let's say, 3 to 4, maybe a year to develop all the necessary features for it to scale. You need to hire back-end engineers, front-end engineers, all of those people just to handle that. You will need to handle infrastructure guys as well. So if you want to enter the market quickly as possible, Firebase is a very good solution for you to do that, because all of the complexities behind managing architecture or infrastructure is already handled for you. So hackathon projects, mainly a lot of people use Firebase to handle that. And when they slowly think that their product is getting traction, and they feel that maybe the Firebase pricing is not suitable to their business goals, they might choose to migrate out. So if you're, let's say you're hitting 100K users or hitting 100K reads and writes, I don't think that kind of cost is a problem for you to continue using Firebase, since you have that much amount of users to begin with anyway.
Okay, our next question.
I'm not sure what kind of certification do you
Yeah.
mean. If you're meaning exams like professional software architect, cloud architecture exams, they are, but I'm not sure if that is what you're asking about.
Any good tutorials or online resources for learning Firebase that you recommend?
First of all, firebase.google.com/doc, and the link that Changi showed already, right? The Firebase function sample.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
it's
also
really cool use
that
case.
as well.
Yeah, many use cases that Firebase develop and show you, and you can fork and you can download the source code and develop yourself.
Okay. What is the role?
And Firebase on YouTube as well. I
Okay.
think many series in the Firebase on YouTube channel.
So what is the roadmap for Firebase if I would like to land a job in that field?
Frankly speaking, in Southeast Asia, we don't see a lot of full-time Firebase developers itself. We do see cloud developers who work on the Google Cloud Platform. So if you work with Cloud Firestore, you should be able to work on the Google Cloud Platform. But Firebase alone, we seldom see jobs looking for Firebase developers, but rather we see jobs for mobile engineers or software developers who know how to use Firebase itself. So I would say Firebase is like a extra knowledge of tools and suites and tools to help you build faster, build better applications. So that's my take on it now. But I have seen companies looking specifically for Firebase developers, but not in Malaysia. I mean, not in Singapore, Malaysia, but overseas, around maybe European countries. Maybe they have more of those kind of roles.
Yeah, same with Changi. I think Firebase skill is that skill that if you would like to apply a job, is this a bonus that you will get in South Asia. Yeah.
Okay, our last question actually today. Can you share what are some major challenges you face nowadays while making application with Firebase?
I do have one. One of that was cost management. So that is actually kind of a common problem when developers start working on Firebase to manage their read and write costs. So the project that I built was for Dev Fest, which basically means Developer Festival, because I used to be the community manager for the Google developer groups in Kuala Lumpur, which basically is a developer community for Google related technologies. So we had a festival going on where even users on the app. So the app allows you to actually schedule talks, schedule a timetable for your talk. So it's basically an offline event before COVID happened. So we have a lot of different talks scheduled at the venue, and you can choose to make your own scheduling of what talks you want to attend to. We added some ticketing sales on the app itself. We added swag. Actually ran it on Cloud Firestore and real-time database. So when I was doing the trial run, when we opened our sales of tickets, I think the first day it hit almost the 50,000 limit in maybe 15 minutes when the app was first launched. So that, of course, made me to scramble because, of course, I didn't want to get charged, right? So we took a look at some of the field things that I've written in the app, ways to optimize the read and writes. After all those optimizations, I actually wasn't charged at all. So I think at the end of the month when the event was over, because it's charged Monday, right? I think the total bill for Firestore was only like $1 or $2 at most. So for me, it works well because I don't need to pay anything. I don't need to pay for hosting. I need to pay for bandwidth. I don't need to pay for computational costs. This is comparing if you were to upload your app on AWS or GCP on outside of the Firebase suite. For example, you upload on the compute engine, then those are charged when your application starts, regardless of whether there are anyone using it or not. But one thing Firebase only does is they only charge you based on the usage. No one using it, then you don't get charged. It's as simple as that. So for me, one of the few major challenges was just managing costs on Firebase. For querying, I guess it's just more like data structure management. How do you manage your database structure in Firestore in such a way that is easy to query, easy to retrieve that way? So yeah, I think that's all that I can think of right now.
So for me, it's, before we have the Firebase Emulator Suite as a GDE, I always have the workshop for students all over Thailand to build that application in the class. And if you would like to use the cloud function, you need to buy the credit card before, because you have to request the third-party API for sure. You will not use only the Google Domain API, right? So this is in Thailand is hardly to let student in the class buy their credit card because not everyone has the credit card, you know. So but after they provide the Firebase emulator suite, is easy for me to running the Firebase app development class, so everyone can do it right now. Yep.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Jirawan. I'm actually gonna send in your link for Twitter so that we have actually a lot more questions, but due to time we can't answer them. So is it okay if I were to give them your Twitter link to ask them questions?
Yep, sure.
Sure.
Alright, on the chat, guys. Mr. Lim's Twitter handle is the first one, and Mr. Jirawan is the second one. All right. Give me a second. Sorry. Okay. So now almost come to the end. So is it okay if everyone will just turn on their cams for a picture? Give me a second. All right. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So, okay, 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thank you for coming, to be honest. Anyways,
Thank you.
We have, okay, for the rest of the audience, we actually have one more session, which is known as the Kahoot time. Sorry, let me share mine. So we have the Kahoot time. So if you guys are interested, you guys can come and join us. We will be having questions on that, and you can answer that. I'll put the link in you guys. If you guys are using your phone, you guys can type it, like scan the QR code to show that. Or you guys can use the link in the text right now. The link, okay, there'll be a code actually. I will let Alakia Data, my my mentor for DSC actually, he will be running this part of the event. All right, Alec.
Yep. So for this Kahoot, is recommended like you guys use your phone and paste the link. You can use like different name. Is okay. Perfect.
This is the pin. So the pin you guys can put it is 605 4736. Sure. Hints. All right, let's go.
Okay. All right. All right. Okay. I'm starting. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Right. So the first question, who is hosting this event? So the option are DSC, Developer Student Club Singapore, students, or DSC. Actually, all of them are correct. So, okay. All right. So Dan is at the top. Well, let's go to the next question. When was Firebase founded?
That's the point where you give him a point, a hint or something. Nice one, Yash.
All right. So Firebase was actually founded in 2011. So here's the story. Actually, in 2010, like startup actually like started this Firebase. Then after the 2011, like they went into full-fledged operation. So let's see who is in the top position. All right. So we have still Dan holding the top position. Let's go to the next question. Which plan is free of cost in Firebase? So we have Blaze plan, Flutter Fire plan, Google Cloud plan, and the Spark plan. All right. So Blaze plan is actually like, okay, by default, you will get the Spark plan. And Blaze plan is basically like, let's say you want to implement more things, like you have more, let's say machine learning or some other stuff. So you will have to upgrade to Blaze plan. And Flutter Fire plan, there is no such plan currently. It's Flutter Fire is like a documentation kind of a thing. And Google Cloud plan is kind of different. So it's Spark plan. So we have JY in the top 3 currently. Okay, let's go to the next question. So out of these 3 images, which one represent HTML? Okay, so it's actually number A because, okay, maybe I will tell about this more about later in the later part of this session. So we have no changes in position. Dan is in the top. So let's go to the next question. So out of these 3 images, which one represent JavaScript? Okay. All right. So let's go to the next question. So out of these 3 images, which one represents CSS? All right. So basically, like, okay, the images shown, the first images is like a skeleton image. So when you are building any website, like the skeleton part is basically the HTML. So HTML, like basically you write the HTML in such a way like div at the top, then footer at the below. So that's your skeleton. Whereas JavaScript is kind of like a nervous system of your website. Like basically you have give like certain tasks. Let's say like, okay, you if I click this button, you will behave like this way. If I click that button, you will behave like this way. So JavaScript is kind of like a nervous system, and CSS mainly defines on styling. So that's why option C is CSS. So okay, let's go to the next question. Okay, the top 5 position is still the same. So the question, Firebase Cloud function should be written in. So option are Go, Dart, JS, and Java. Yes, it's JavaScript. So Firebase Cloud Function is written in JavaScript or TypeScript. Maybe in the future there will be other languages which Firebase can implement, but for now it's JavaScript or TypeScript. Okay, so JY is in the top 2 right now, and Dan is in the first position. So let's go to the next question. Which service the following logo represent? Yeah, I think this one was covered today. Okay, it's a real-time database. Wow, okay, we have some changes in the position. Well, let's go to the next question. Which service the following logo represent? All right, so it's Cloud Firestore. Okay, so we have no changes in the position. Let's go to the next question. Which service the following logo represents? I think this one will be easy. So basically cloud storage, I just cover, let's say like you are building a social media application or something like that, and you need to upload images, let's say. So basically all your images will be stored in the cloud storage, and then after that, basically once you actually like upload that thing in your cloud storage, you will actually like cloud store Firebase will generate a URL which you can store in, let's say, your cloud Firestore. Maybe like it can be a user profile picture, and then after that you can show it in the mobile application or any website, let's say. So let's go to the next question. True or false? Arduino can be connected with Firebase. Yes, it's true. So basically, right. I mean, most of the people like or basically the mostly the electrical or electrical and electronics engineering student, they think like okay, Arduino, like basically it's actually has no uses, so what should I do? So basically they tend to shift to Raspberry Pi, which is like much more expensive. But Arduino, yes, it can be connected to Firebase, and you can like perform really cool operation. And mostly right now, I think in most of the university, the professor, which Mr. Lim earlier mentioned, most of the professors actually don't know about this feature. So, and I actually took advantage of this feature. So I implemented Firebase in Arduino, and then my professor went like, wow, that's so cool, man, in my final year project. So yeah, you guys actually can try implementing Firebase with Arduino. Just remember, like, basically, if you are using a traditional Arduino, which is like a normal one, so you just need to buy one, I think, a module which allows you to connect to the Wi-Fi or your mobile hotspot. Okay, all right. So let's go to, okay, we have no changes in position. Only JY is in the Firebase provide GitHub authentication.
Yes. 50 chance.
And Twitter letter and even GitHub. So let's go to the next one. Okay, we have Dan again in number 1 position. Oh, we have another man, Potato Man. Okay, Potato Man in top 5. All right, let's go to the next one. A true or false question. Can you send push notification to a mobile device using Firebase? Yes, correct. I think everybody got this right. So, okay, we have no changes in position. Okay, I can help you translate text in your mobile app. Who am I? Okay, so it's actually ML kit. So basically Firebase actually provides you like ML server, which you can actually implement in your mobile application. I think last year I actually used the ML kit to actually, I think probably it's an app I created. Basically, it's a recycling app where people actually, or user can actually upload images. And then after that, based on that images, it generate like whether the waste is recyclable or not. So yeah, it's a cool feature which Firebase actually offer. Okay, we have LQ in the top 3 currently. All right, let's go to the next question. Who am I?
Just the color is a hint.
All right, it's actually Google Shapes.
The color is the hint.
Okay, we have top 3. We have Gia. Okay, in the top 3. So let's go to the next one. Who am I?
Color. Okay. No.
Okay, it's actually Dash. Okay, we have LQ again in the top 3. Okay, let's. Who am I? Okay. Okay, it's actually Gopher. So it's a Golang mascot, you can say. So let's go to the next question. Okay, we have Gia again in top 3. Okay. Oh, Mr. Jirawat is also there in the top 5. Okay, hardcore competition is going on right now. Let's see who wins. Okay, who am I? Okay, it's basically this person you can see is my background. Right, it's Sparky. So it's actually the Firebase mascot. I think most of you will know, especially the leads, because like I think while doing quick labs, or let's say like basically when you knew about this Firebase thing, the first thing you saw in the email is basically this mascot picture eating a pizza. So yeah, so that's Sparky. All right, we have no changes in position. So let's go to the next question. Okay, what does this following statement do? So Firebase was set in it. I have a name and a value. All right, so one of them have given the correct answer. So it's basically used in Arduino. So implementing Firebase with Arduino is really simple. I thought like probably it was very complicated. Then after that, I explored the Arduino community and I found out like it's really easy. You just need like few lines of code and that's boom. So what it does is basically like there are okay, this command actually like sets an integer or creates an integer in the real-time database, whereas another statement is there like Firebase the set float, which like gives you like a floating number, and another is set string, which gives you like allows you to like set a string value in your Firebase real-time database. So yeah, if you like are an electrical or electronics student, or let's say like a IoT guy like me, I actually like love IoT. So you can actually like, you know, in your free time you can actually play around with the Firebase commands and try to implement with Arduino. So let's go to the next question. All right, we have Gia in the number 1 position. All right, let's go to the next question. Which database is this? Okay, it's real-time database. So basically this is actually a snapshot from my final year project. So where I actually, what I did is I actually implemented this like I actually my project title is smart fire alarm system. So I implemented it in such a way, like let's say like whenever first of all, like basically all the data are uploaded in the real-time database, and then whenever there is like a fire, so what happens, like I created a cloud function. So cloud function is in charge of basically, let's say I have fire, so it actually triggers the alarm to the user or send push notification to the user phone, and then after that the user get alerted. So it's very cool like how Firebase is offering this kind of service. And the services which Firebase offer, I think is just for us to actually like connect the dots and make a really cool solution. So okay, so we have no changes in position. So let's go to the next question. So it's a double point question. Until which date Cloud Firestyle will accept read and write? So you have to refer to this image. All right, it's 1st March 2022. So basically, one thing I would like to share is basically whenever you open a, like whenever you create a Firestore or sorry Firebase project, right? If you use Cloud Firestore, you will actually be asked to you like use the like set the Firestore in either I think lock mode or test mode. So whenever you do in test mode, they will actually give you like a 1 month of like access, like basically 1 month of read and write request. So basically in order to like edit the thing, you can actually change it to up to you. So basically you can add 2049 or 2030 or even 1 month access. If you are fine with it, you can also like keep the, you don't need to change the rules. So yeah, so that's one of the things which you need to do whenever you are like doing any, or you are a first timer in Firebase. So let's go to the next question. Okay, we have Dan in the top 1 position right now. So let's go to the next question. Who is the developer for Kotlin? I think people should know this because we have Android Study Jam recently. All right, it's actually JetBrains. It's people think like it's Google, but it's not. It's actually JetBrains are the developer for Kotlin. Okay, we have a hardcore competition between Dan and Gia. So let's see who wins. What was the title of the first video on YouTube?
Oh, I didn't know this.
All right, it's actually me at Zoo. Okay, maybe you guys can actually search later and see the video. All right, we have Gia in the top one. Okay, it's a double point question. When was Google founded?
Any hint on this?
All right, it's actually 1998. Okay, wow, this is really a hardcore competition right now going on.
Dennis in the lead.
Okay, next question. It's also a double point. When was Gmail founded? Okay, it's 2004. And there is actually like a funny thing about it. So basically, Sundar Pichai, who is the CEO of Google currently, so he shared in one of his interview, like basically in 2004 he joined Google, and in his interview, like the recruiter actually asked him about Gmail, and that day I think was 1st April, and so like he thought like it was a kind of a April Fool prank on him, and he actually like was kind of like couldn't answer, but then after that, I mean, after that, Sundar actually right now is the CEO of Google. All right, let's go to the next question. Okay, we have shared. Wow, that's nice.
Right, our last question.
Okay, the last question.
Then
Okay, what is the name of this place? Oh, sorry, palace.
Who's gonna get this?
Oh, okay. I thought people don't know about. Okay, yeah, okay, actually, people don't know about this. So it's not Taj Mahal. It's actually Bibaka. That like we pronounce it like Baba Imambara, kind of a like the thing. So basically, it's in India, but actually, like it's actually like Shah Jahan built the Taj Mahal, right? So this fort was actually constructed by his son Aurangzeb, and it's in India. But I think I don't know the exact location where it is. Maybe you can search Google about it, but yeah, it's actually people call it the fake Taj Mahal. So and people actually tend to confuse, even like when I was small, maybe like 10 years earlier, I also tend to confuse, like in my history question, like there was a question about this one I couldn't answer. So yeah, that's a good knowledge I think you got about this question. All right, let's see the top winners. So third one is JY. All right, second is Zia.
And then
First
right.
is Shan.
Can the top three
All right.
winners show their face?
And the radio is Shad. Wow. Okay. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Thank you for joining this session, and thanks to the speaker as well. It was a really informative session. I mean, like I am currently doing my final year project, and I am actually implementing a lot of Firebase tool in my final year project. By the way, I'm not an IT student, electrical and electronics engineering. So yeah, and after that, I actually like when I actually implemented Firebase with Artina, I was really shocked. Like you can do a lot of things with Firebase, and people actually do not know about this. And most importantly, I think I suggest like all of you to like use Firebase. First of all, like most of the professor actually don't know about this. Secondly, if you use Firebase in your final year project, one thing I can guarantee, your plagiarism content or your like Turnitin thing will be very, very much low. So if you want to like how to say, if you want to cheat your Turnitin percentage, use Firebase. All right, so that's from me. Over to you, Sri.
All right. Okay, we have come to an end of this event actually. I'd like to thank everyone, including the speakers and the audience over here, for being amazing. And yeah, have a good weekend, guys. Yeah, thank you.